What's up fellow nerds, I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a breakdown of the Traveler's generational ship as seen in Stargate Atlantis. I'll be covering the history of the ship and then cover the technical specifications. But before we get started, if you like the content, feel free to like, comment and subscribe for more. And if you like my bloopers, make sure to stay to the end of the video. And with that said, let's go. So to begin, the history of the Travelers is never really delved into in the show, but I have found online through other resources more of their history to piece together a timeline. So here we go. The Travelers' history goes back a little over 10,000 years, being one of the few human civilizations in the Pegasus galaxy at the time to advance that technology to a point of space travel. And with these achievements, they became allies and friends of the Lanteans. But with the Lantean war with the Wraith, and the Wraith culling every human planet along their path, the Travelers, after defending their homeworld from a small Wraith attack, decided to pull all of their resources into creating a fleet of generational ships to flee their planet and escape the Wraith before the planet was overrun. It's unknown on how many ships were created and how many people fled their planet, but it's clear there was many. They would then spend the next 10,000 years moving through space, living in space, and always moving from one place to another, rarely stopping long at one location, becoming stagnant in advancing their technology and over time lost the ability to create new ships or repair them with new parts, due to the lack of resources and knowledge. Due to this, they ended up having to cobble together parts to jerry-rig systems to keep their ships working, and so each ship became more unique in function. And with not being able to build new ships, strict population controls were established as there just wasn't enough space on their ships, even resulting to leaving many of their people on planets to be absorbed into local populations. This downward trend for the Travelers resulted in the culture and civilization to be on the brink of extinction for many centuries. Long-term space travel, the population limit, and the inability to construct new ships have dwindled their numbers but not their spirits, as in 2008, after discovering a Lantean Aurora-class warship and hearing stories of a new group of humans battling the Wraith with Lantean technology, they placed beacons at many space stargates around the galaxy, hoping to encounter the Atlantis expedition, and so they did, capturing John Shepard in a puddle jumper. The ensuing encounter allowed the Travelers to fix and commandeer the Lantean warship, adding it to their fleet, giving their population room to grow. Later that year, during the Asuran replicator crisis, Shepard enlists the help of the Travelers to assist in the battle over Asurus, to help end the replicator threat. The Travelers, understanding the threat and their obligation as one of the few spacefaring races in the Pegasus galaxy, agreed to help, offering 6 Traveler generational ships and their new Lantean warship to the battle. During the battle, the Travelers lost 1 generational ship to the battle, but the rest, including the Lantean warship, survived, and after the battle, the Travelers departed from Atlantis as allies and went their own way. Later on in 2009, the Travelers, seeing the change in the galaxy with the Wraith threat diminishing, decided it was safe enough to establish their first colony on a planet in thousands of years. However, unknown to them and the galaxy, an offshoot group of Asgard, the Veneer, kidnapped and used Drs. McKay and Jackson to activate an ancient device called the Atera device. This device disrupts the subspace frequencies of Wraith hyperspace windows, causing any Wraith ship to be destroyed into a million pieces upon attempting to enter hyperspace. However, this device had a fatal side effect. It also disrupts the subspace frequency of a Stargate, causing the Stargates to build energy from subspace within its capacitors and subsequently cause an overload and explodes. With enough bang, it can be seen from space. This side effect caused the Travelers' new colony to be destroyed, including their new Lantean warship, which was landed on the planet at the time. The Travelers, deeply concerned about this tragedy, travelled to Atlantis to seek answers, and upon discovering the source, 1 Traveler ship set off for the Atera device planet with Shepard and Zelinka on board, and assisted in saving the Deadless and destroying the facility housing the Atera device, thus ending the disaster. It's unclear on what the Travelers went on to do after this event, as the show ended, but I would imagine they would try and build another colony and build closer ties with the Atlantis expedition, possibly gaining technology to repair and build new ships from the Tauri. But that's my thoughts, so with the history out the way, let's talk about the technical specifications of the ship, starting off with the ship's size. So for the size of the generation ship, we don't have really any specs online, so this is going to be guesswork from on-screen visuals with a lot of assumptions on my part. So here we go. The size of the ship is, I want to say, roughly half the size of the BC-304. So with the 304 being around 700 meters long, we can safely assume the generation ship to be around 300 meters to 350 meters long and around 150 meters wide, around the same as the Daedalus's midsection, with a height around the same as the 304, so around 100 meters to 130 meters high. Unfortunately, I can't find any images of the ship except from the show's screen captures, but you can get the general size of the ship from these images I have captured for you. So with the size covered to the best I can, let's talk about the ship's other specifications, starting off with the engines. So the engines of the Traveler's generation ship are made up of three types. The first one is the standard anti-gravitational drive that defies the laws of gravity and inertia, allowing the ship to hover in place and move in any direction in space without the need for directional thrusters. The second drive is the sublight drive. This engine drive is for moving at extreme speeds in space. The thrust is provided by these two large engine nacelles at the rear of the ship, with the red engine plume. And lastly, the hyperdrive. This hyperdrive is of the interstellar kind, only allowing travel in the one galaxy, and is not as advanced as most hyperdrives, as this hyperdrive uses wires, chips and circuit boards for the technology, and not the standard advanced control crystals seen in almost all other races' hyperdrive technology, making the Travelers the only race thus far to achieve hyperspace travel without control crystal technology, making them very unique within the Stargate universe. So up next, let's talk about the shields. So the Traveler's technology is quite advanced, and along with the hyperdrive, they have also mastered shield technology without the need for control crystals. The shields of the ship are reasonably strong, being able to withstand multiple fire from Asuran Aurora class warships' pulse cannons and the Pegasus Galaxy's Asgard ships' energy attacks, but will deplete under sustained fire. The shields of the ship form a yellow protective bubble around the ship, diffusing energy bolts. It's unclear on how the shield is powered or generated, but I would rate it just stronger than the upgraded Huttux of the Milky Way, in my opinion. Up next, let's talk about the power supply. So for the power generation, it's unclear on what exactly powers the ship. My guess is some form of Naquadah reactor or fusion drive to generate the power required for hyperspace and the other ship systems. Nothing else is known for sure, so this is complete assumption on my part. So for the weapons of the ship, we have reasonably strong energy pulse cannons of a red energy bolt, similar to that of Ronan's guns, Energy Blast, but on a much larger scale. These cannons seem to surround the ship, giving the ship 360 degrees worth of range and can fire in rapid succession. These cannons are strong enough to destroy a Veneer ship, the Pegasus Asgard, in around 10 shots. The cannons are also capable of planetary bombardment, being able to destroy the entire building and structures in a few shots. No other weapons are shown on the ship, leaving the energy cannons the only weapon the ship has. So the controls of the ship are kind of unique. The main controls are located on the bridge, which I believe is located here. And on the bridge is a dual cockpit configuration similar to fighter jets, with the rear seat controlling the ship's movement and the lower seat the weapons and shields. It's unclear if there is other stations on the bridge for other crew and for other functions, but this setup controls the ship's main functions. There is also a display screen on the wall to the right of the cockpit for visual communications with other ships. One can presume, though, there is other stations on the bridge for other control functions lining the room, but it's unclear as not a lot is known or shown in the show. So moving on to the sensors of the ship. The ship uses a rudimentary sensor array to detect other ships at various ranges, including different star systems, and it uses subspace sensors for long-range scanning and communication. Its targeting systems are quite low technology, using standard computer targeting arrays with advanced radar-like scanning for target acquisition. Navigational systems use standard star mapping for spatial coordinates, like most other races' space navigational systems within the Stargate universe. So for the Traveler's ship, we don't really see many other systems, as the ship is only briefly shown in the show, so we shall move on to the ship's crew and compartments. So for the ship's crew, there is no defined answer, but given it's a generational ship and the size given and the design is clearly built to house as many people as possible, I would say the ship's crew is somewhere between 200 to a maximum of 1,000 packed in. But this is a speculation on my part, taking in factors like the design of the ship being a generation ship. It must be capable of holding many passengers, but as it's a spaceship, you have to account for life support limits, food and water supply, but to evacuate a substantial portion of a civilization, you would expect upwards of 50,000 plus people at least. So let's say 1,000 passengers per ship. That's 50 ships built, which seems okay, a bit low for a planet evacuation, but given the war and the time frame of invasion, I can accept that they built around 50 ships, given we see at least 10 ships in the show. It's very plausible, however, if the ships hold say around 500 passengers, that's 100 ships that were built. But again, this is all speculation and guesswork, but I like to at least theorize for you all. Next, let's talk about compartments. So firstly, we see the bridge. This room is covered in wires and is a mess, with the two main control seats in the middle of the room. Next, we see the engine room. This room is not much better when it comes to wires, and it does leak radiation from time to time from the engines. Another room we see is a holding room, a type of meeting room, again both having loose wires draping the wall, showing the mixed match cobbled together repairs of the ship over time. And the last room we see on the ship is the hangar bay, located somewhere on the bottom of the ship. This bay is quite large and has a retractable floor with a force field. The ships do look run down and just about hanging on with wires and pipes exposed everywhere. It's amazing the ship functions at all. So to summarise the Traveler's generation ship, it is a miracle these ships fly at all. They are extremely old ships being held together by hope and duct tape, and are in themselves a dangerous hazard with exposed conduits and power lines that can cause injuries, not to mention the radiation leaks. I bet these ships look clean and awesome back when they were first constructed. The generational nature of the ship leaves me wanting to know more about the society and history of the Travelers and how many ships that were built for the evacuation. And despite the age and the main purpose of the ship being a generational ship, they can still handle themselves against various threats, making the Travelers and their ships a formidable force within the galaxy. I hope to see them again in future stories, but that is really hoping, isn't it? Well, there we go then, my fellow sci-fi nerds. That was going to be the end of today's breakdown. I hope you have all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, comment and subscribe for more. And if you like my bloopers, they're up next. I have been your host, Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Cheers and goodbye, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye. And with not being able to build new ships, strict population controls were established as there just wasn't enough. Later on in 2009, the Travelers, seeing the change in the galaxy with the Wraith threat diminishing, decided it was safe enough to disestablish. Try that again. However, this device had a fatal side effect. It also disrupts the subspace frequency of stargates, causing the stargates to build up energy from subspace within its capacitors and subsequently causing an overload. And explodes with enough bang it can see. It can see? The bang can see? No. Try again. What are we looking? The travelers, deeply concerned about this tragedy, traveled to Atlantis. It's unclear on what the travelers went on to do after this event, as the show ended, but I would imagine they would try and build another colony and build closer ties with the Atlantis expedition, possibly gaining technology. It's unclear on what the travelers went on to do after this event, and the show ended. Oh, God's sake! So for the size of the generational, right? The shields of the ship are reasonably strong, being able to try that again. So for the weapons of the ship, we have reasonably strong energy pulse cannons of a red energy bolt, similar to Ronan's gun. Try again. And it uses hyperspace, regular star mapping for spatial coordinates, like most other races. Oh dear. So for the targeting systems, so for the ship's crew, there is no defined answer, but given it's a generational ship and the size given and the design is clearly built to house as many people as possible, I would say the cruise ship. So for the ship, the ships do. The generational nature of the ships leaves me wanting to know more about the social. The generational nature of the ships leaves me wanting to know more about the society. Words.